The last line of defense. The galaxy had always been full of wonders. Thousands of civilizations thrived among the stars, building empires that spanned hundreds of light years. Most species had achieved interstellar travel millennia ago, developing technologies that bent the laws of physics and reshaped worlds to their will. The great powers of the galaxy. The Zoraxian Imperium. The Telari Conclave, the Meridian Alliance, had established a delicate balance, maintaining peace through mutual assured destruction. Humanity, by comparison, was nothing. A speck. An afterthought. Earth had only recently ventured beyond its solar system, establishing modest colonies on Mars and Europa. Their ships were primitive by galactic standards, no faster than light travel, no gravitational manipulation, no quantum weaponry. When humanity finally made contact with the galactic community, they were regarded with mild curiosity at best, contempt at worst. A primitive species still taking its first steps into the cosmos. The Galactic Council had assigned Earth the lowest possible classification, a Level 1 civilization, barely worthy of diplomatic recognition. Humanity was permitted to observe council meetings but never to speak. They were allowed limited trade but denied access to advanced technologies. The message was clear. Humans were tolerated, not welcomed. Commander Maya Chen stood at the observation deck of Outpost Sentinel, Earth's furthest military installation, watching the stars with wary eyes. At 42, she had spent her entire career fighting for humanity's place among the stars. The struggle had left lines on her face and silver streaks in her black hair, but her determination remained unbroken. "Commander, we're receiving something strange." Lieutenant Kato's voice crackled through the comms. "Multiple distress signals, all at once. They're coming from everywhere." Chen frowned. "Put them through." The observation deck speakers crackled to life with a cacophony of panicked voices in dozens of languages. The translation software struggled to keep up, but the message was clear. Something terrible was happening across the galaxy. Lost contact with the outer colonies. Defense fleet has been annihilated. They consume everything. Help us, please, anyone. What in God's name is going on? Chen whispered. The answer came 3 days later, when the first refugee ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Vessels of all shapes and sizes, many damaged, all packed with terrified aliens. The lead ship belonged to the Oraxians, a proud species known for their advanced technology and isolationist policies. They had never deigned to speak with humans before. Now they were begging for sanctuary. The Void Harbingers, they called them. An ancient force from beyond the galaxy's edge that consumed everything in their path. Not just conquering, consuming. Breaking down matter at the molecular level to fuel their endless expansion. The Harbingers moved like a wave through space, leaving nothing behind but empty vacuum where vibrant worlds once stood. The Zoraxian Imperium fell in 3 days, explained First Emissary Kallax, the Araxian leader, his translucent skin pulsing with distress patterns. The Telari Conclave lasted a week. The Meridian Alliance is fighting still, but their defenses are crumbling. The emergency meeting of Earth's United Defense Council was tense. Representatives from every nation sat in stunned silence as footage played across the screens. Massive black ships, shaped like fractured obsidian, tearing through the most powerful fleets in the galaxy like they were made of paper. "Why come to us?" asked General Williams, his weathered face grim. "We have no defense against something that could destroy the Zoraxians." "Because there is nowhere else," Kallax replied simply. "And because you were the only ones who answered our distress call." A heavy silence fell across the room. Chen looked at the faces around her, confused, frightened, but thoughtful. It was true. While the great powers of the galaxy had ignored the plight of the falling civilizations, humanity had responded immediately. Ships had been deployed, communications established, not because they had anything to gain, but because people were in danger. "The Void Harbingers have not yet detected your system," Kallax continued. "Your technological signature is minimal, but they will find you eventually. They find everything. The council debated through the night. Some argued for turning the refugees away, for preserving Earth's anonymity. Others insisted on helping, regardless of the cost. By morning, the decision was made. Earth would open its doors. In the weeks that followed, more refugees arrived, tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. Species that had once looked down on humanity now sought their protection. Earth's modest colonies became crowded shelters. Every available space was converted to housing. Resources were stretched thin. Commander Chen was assigned to coordinate the military response, what little there could be. Earth's combined fleet consisted of barely 100 combat-capable vessels, none of which could match even the smallest Void Harbinger ship. "We can't fight them conventionally," Chen told her international team of officers. "So we don't fight conventionally." Humanity had always excelled at asymmetric warfare. Where they lacked in technology, they compensated with creativity and determination. Engineers worked alongside alien refugees, combining human ingenuity with fragments of advanced technology. They couldn't match the Harbinger's weapons, but perhaps they could hide from them. The plan was audacious. Massive cloaking arrays built throughout the solar system, designed to mask not just Earth, but all the planets. The technology was imperfect. It wouldn't fool the Harbingers forever, but it might buy them time. Time to evacuate, time to prepare, time to find a weakness. For 6 months, the work continued. The great powers of the galaxy continued to fall. The Meridian Alliance, once spanning 1,000 star systems, was reduced to a handful of battered fleets in retreat. The Galactic Council, which had stood for 50,000 years, collapsed into chaos. The civilization that had looked down on humanity was crumbling. Through it all, Earth stood firm. The refugees were integrated into society as best as possible. Aliens who had once considered humans primitive now worked alongside them, learning from their adaptability and resilience. Cultural exchanges flourished even as the shadow of extinction loomed. 1 year after the first refugees arrived, the inevitable happened. A small Void Harbinger scout ship detected an anomaly in Earth's system, a fluctuation in the cloaking field. Within hours, a message arrived from the edge of the system, broadcast on all frequencies in a harsh mechanical voice. "We AVFOUNDU. We will consume you. Resistance is irrelevant." Chen stood on the observation deck of the Sentinel once more, watching as the first Harbinger vessels appeared in the distance, black against the stars, like holes torn in the fabric of space itself. Earth had perhaps days before the main fleet arrived. "Are the evacuation ships ready?" she asked. Lieutenant Kato nodded. "As ready as they'll ever be, Commander. But there aren't enough for everyone." Chen had known this from the beginning. Even with every available vessel, they could evacuate perhaps 30% of Earth's population, plus a fraction of the refugees. The rest would have to stay and fight, and almost certainly die. "The defensive grid is operational," Kaido continued, "for whatever good it'll do." Chen nodded. The defensive grid was humanity's final gambit, a network of satellites and ground-based weapons incorporating salvaged alien technology. It wouldn't stop the Harbingers, but it might slow them down. "Send the signal," Chen ordered. "Begin the evacuation." As the evacuation ships prepared to depart, carrying the young, the elderly, and those with critical knowledge, humanity made one final transmission to the stars. Not a plea for help, they knew none would come, but a declaration. "This is Earth. We stand against the darkness. We fight not just for ourselves, but for all who seek refuge. We may fall, but we will fall together, and we will fall fighting." To any who receive this message, remember that in our darkest hour, when the great powers turned away, humanity stood its ground. Remember us. The message echoed across the galaxy, reaching the scattered remnants of once great civilizations. Most ignored it, focused on their own survival. But some listened. Some remembered how the primitive humans had answered when no one else would. And as the first wave of Void Harbinger ships entered the inner solar system, something unexpected happened. Alarms blared throughout the Sentinel as dozens of warp signatures appeared at the edge of detection range. Multiple contacts. Kato shouted. They're not Harbingers. Chen stared at the display in disbelief as ships of various designs, battered, damaged, but armed for war, emerged from warp. The comm system crackled to life with a message in a dozen different languages, unified by the translation software. This is Admiral Xaran of the Meridian Remnant. We received your message, Earth. You answered our call when no one else would. Now we answer yours. You will not stand alone. The strength of the unbroken. Commander Maya Chen had never expected allies. The arrival of the Meridian Remnant fleet, along with scattered ships from a dozen other fallen civilizations, changed everything. They were still outnumbered and outgunned, but now they had a fighting chance. Admiral Xaran, a veteran of 100 battles against the Void Harbingers, took command of the combined fleet. He was a Meridian, tall and gaunt with iridescent scales covering his elongated skull. Once he had commanded thousands of ships. Now he led barely 100, crewed by the desperate survivors of fallen worlds. Your defensive grid is innovative, Xaran told Chen during their first strategy meeting aboard his flagship. His translator struggled with the word, as if innovative wasn't quite right. Primitive, but clever. It might work. Primitive but clever. Chen smiled wryly. That's humanity in a nutshell, Admiral. The defensive grid was humanity's contribution to the coming battle, a network unlike anything the galactic community had designed before. While advanced civilizations relied on energy shields and quantum disruption fields, humans had taken a different approach. The grid combined physical barriers, electronic countermeasures, and decentralized control systems. It couldn't stop the Harbingers, but it could confuse them, slow them down, create vulnerabilities. The Harbingers adapt quickly, Xaran warned. They analyze patterns, anticipate responses. That's why conventional defenses fail. Then we'll be unpredictable, Chen replied. That's something humans excel at. As the main Harbinger fleet approached, Earth prepared for war. Civilians who couldn't be evacuated were moved to underground shelters built beneath the major cities. Military forces from every nation were united under a single command structure. The refugees who had chosen to stay, and there were many, joined the defense force, bringing whatever skills and knowledge they could offer. Dr. Eliza Mukherjee, Earth's leading xenobiologist, had spent months studying the limited data available on the Void Harbingers. In her makeshift lab beneath Geneva, surrounded by alien researchers, she finally made a breakthrough. They're not just machines, she explained to the War Council, her dark eyes intense behind her glasses. They're not just organic either. There's something in between, something that evolves constantly. We know this, Xaran said impatiently. That's why they're impossible to defeat. No, you don't understand, Mukherjee insisted. Their evolution isn't random. It's directed, purposeful. They adapt to specific threats, specific environments. But that adaptation comes at a cost. It makes them vulnerable to unexpected threats. Chen leaned forward. What kind of unexpected threats? Biological weapons wouldn't work. They're resistant to anything we could engineer, Mukherjee said. But there's something else, something so simple we almost missed it. Their communication system. The Harbingers communicated through quantum entanglement, instantaneous signals across vast distances. It was what made their coordination so perfect, their attacks so synchronized. But Mukherjee's team had discovered something remarkable. The frequency they used was vulnerable to disruption from a specific type of radiation. It won't destroy them, Mukherjee cautioned, but it might disrupt their coordination long enough to give us an advantage. The battle began 3 days later. The Harbinger fleet arrived in force. Hundreds of obsidian ships in various configurations, from small scouts to massive dreadnoughts shaped like jagged black stars. They didn't communicate, didn't demand surrender. They simply attacked. The combined Earth-Meridian fleet met them at the edge of the asteroid belt. Conventional wisdom said to establish a defensive perimeter around Earth, but Chen had argued against it. If we fight defensively, we've already lost, she had said. We need to surprise them. And surprise them they did. As the Harbinger ships entered weapons range, they encountered not a traditional defensive formation, but a chaotic array of small, fast-moving vessels darting between the asteroids. Human ships, retrofitted with alien technology, moved in unpredictable patterns, firing not powerful energy weapons, but thousands of small, conventional missiles. The missiles themselves were largely ineffective against Harbinger shields, but they weren't meant to destroy. They were meant to distract. As the Harbingers focused on neutralizing the missile threat, larger ships from the Meridian Remnant moved into position, targeting key vessels with their more powerful weapons. For hours, the battle raged across the asteroid belt. The human-alien coalition took heavy losses, nearly a third of their fleet destroyed in the first wave alone. But they inflicted damage too, more than the Harbingers had suffered in any previous engagement. Then Phase 2 began. Earth activated the defensive grid. Satellites throughout the solar system emitted the specific radiation frequency Mukherjee had identified. The effect wasn't immediate, but gradually, the perfect coordination of the Harbinger fleet began to falter. Ships collided, friendly fire incidents increased, and their formerly impenetrable formation developed gaps. "It's working," Eggsharon said in disbelief, watching from the bridge of his flagship. "By the stars, it's actually working." The coalition pressed the advantage, targeting the disorganized Harbinger ships with everything they had. For the first time, humanity and their allies began to believe they might survive. But the Harbingers hadn't survived for millennia by being easily defeated. As the battle entered its second day, they adapted. Their communication frequency shifted, rendering Mukherjee's disruption less effective. Their formation tightened once more, and they began a relentless push toward Earth. "They're learning," Chen told the War Council during a brief respite. "We need something else." Captain James Rodriguez, commander of the Earth vessel Defiant, proposed a desperate plan. "We can't match their firepower," he said, his face haggard from 20 hours of continuous battle. "But we don't need to. We just need to hit them where it hurts." Rodriguez had identified what appeared to be the Harbinger's command ship, a massive vessel at the center of their formation. If they could destroy it, the rest of the fleet might be thrown into disarray long enough for Earth to launch a decisive counterattack. The problem was getting close enough. The command ship was protected by layers of defensive vessels and energy shields powerful enough to withstand a direct hit from a nuclear weapon. "I'll do it," Rodriguez volunteered. "The Defiant is fast enough to get through their outer defenses. If we can get close enough, we can deliver the payload." The payload was Earth's final weapon, a gravitational singularity bomb developed using technology from the Araxian refugees. Upon detonation, it would create a miniature black hole, powerful enough to tear apart even a Harbinger dreadnought before collapsing in on itself. "It's a suicide mission," Chen said quietly. Rodriguez nodded. "I know. My crew knows too. We're volunteers, all of us." The plan was approved. While the main fleet engaged the Harbinger forces, drawing their attention and fire, the Defiant would slip through the chaos with a small escort of Meridian stealth vessels. If they could get close enough to the command ship, if the bomb worked as designed, they might turn the tide. As the Defiant and its escort departed, Chen returned to her post aboard the Sentinel. From there, she could coordinate the defensive forces around Earth itself. The planet's atmosphere was already aglow with the energy discharges of orbital combat as the first Harbinger vessels broke through the coalition lines. Ground-based defenses opened fire. Experimental energy weapons, hastily constructed using alien technology, sent beams of coherent light into the sky. Conventional missile batteries, never designed for extraterrestrial combat, launched their payloads in desperate arcs. Civilians huddled in shelters, feeling the earth shake beneath them as the battle raged overhead. Hours passed with no word from the Defiant. The Harbinger advance continued, inexorable. One by one, Earth's orbital defense platforms fell silent, destroyed or disabled. The Coalition fleet, decimated but still fighting, was pushed back to Earth's orbit. It was only a matter of time before the defense collapsed completely. Then, at the darkest moment, a flash of light erupted at the heart of the Harbinger formation. Brilliant, blinding, distorting the very fabric of space around it. The gravitational singularity bomb had detonated. The Harbinger command ship, along with dozens of vessels around it, was torn apart, drawn into a swirling vortex of gravitational forces before the singularity collapsed upon itself. The effect on the remaining Harbinger fleet was immediate and dramatic. Their perfect coordination shattered. Some ships retreated, others attacked in random patterns, still others drifted aimlessly. Without central command, the unstoppable force became vulnerable. All ships, this is Commander Chen, she broadcast to the Coalition fleet. This is our moment. Press the attack. The counteroffensive was swift and merciless. Coalition ships targeted the disorganized Harbinger vessels, destroying them one by one. Ground-based weapons found their marks more easily against the now predictable enemy movements. For the first time, the Void Harbingers, the terror that had consumed half the galaxy, were in retreat. The battle for Earth lasted 3 more days. By the end, over 70% of the Coalition fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The Harbinger forces had been reduced to scattered remnants, fleeing back toward the outer system. Earth itself bore the scars of orbital bombardment. Cities damaged, landscapes altered, millions of lives lost. But the planet stood. Humanity had survived. In the aftermath, as the rebuilding began, a new galactic order emerged. The great powers that had once dominated interstellar politics were gone or greatly diminished. Earth, once dismissed as primitive and insignificant, now stood as a symbol of resistance, the world that had faced the Void Harbingers and won. Representatives from 100 worlds gathered in the partially rebuilt United Nations headquarters in New York. Some were refugees who had found shelter on Earth. Others came from distant systems that had managed to avoid the Harbinger's path. All came to witness something unprecedented: Earth's elevation to full membership in the newly formed Galactic Concord. Commander Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood alongside Admiral Xaran as the treaty was signed. Earth would no longer be classified as a Level 1 civilization. Its unique contributions, its creativity, its resilience, its willingness to stand against impossible odds, had earned it a place among the stars. They underestimated us, Chen said quietly as the ceremony concluded. Xaran nodded, his alien features arranged in what Chen had come to recognize as a smile. Everyone did. Even I did, at first. But I will never make that mistake again. As the delegates departed, Chen stepped onto the balcony overlooking the city. New York was different now. Alien architecture intermixed with human, refugees and Earth citizens working side by side to rebuild. Above, the night sky was filled not just with stars, but with the lights of orbiting ships and stations, a visible reminder of Earth's new place in the galaxy. A memorial had been erected in Central Park, dedicated to the crew of the Defiant and all those who had fallen in the battle. At its center stood a simple inscription: "In our darkest hour, when all hope seemed lost, humanity chose to stand and fight. Not just for ourselves, but for all who sought refuge. We answered the call when no one else would. And in doing so, we discovered the strength that has always defined us, the courage to face the impossible, the compassion to aid those in need, and the unbreakable will to endure. We are humanity. Remember us." The galaxy would indeed remember. For centuries to come, the story would be told on 1,000 worlds, how a primitive species from an unremarkable planet had stood against the darkness when all others had fallen. How, in the face of certain destruction, humanity had not surrendered but had fought with everything they had. How they had welcomed refugees from across the stars, shared what little they had, and ultimately changed the course of galactic history. In the endless tapestry of cosmic civilization, Humanity had written its chapter in letters of fire, a testament to the strength of the unbroken, the defiance of the undaunted, and the power of those who choose to stand when all hope seems lost.